Crude taking off like a rocket ship. Of course, we know behind the scenes, the European leaders have been asking the administration to look the other way. Okay, you want out of the Iranian deal. We want to stay in. We want to do business with them. And we acknowledge, by the way, that they've been bad actors, but we need the cash. This is drawing a line in the sand to them. Don't do business with these guys.
Yeah, that's right. This was a pretty hard message. I mean, it's possible, I suppose, that by November the 4th, when the deadline arrives, that there may be some change of heart. But this was an indication today that the President Trump has adopted the Machiavelli's maxim, which is that, you know, when you're exercising power, it's often better to be feared than to be loved. And he's saying, look, we told you in May that you needed to make arrangements over the next 6 months. If you're doing business with Iran, you're going to need to change. And this was a suggestion or a very strong indication that he means business, and sanctions are the threat to those European companies and nations if they ignore this.
Yeah, Machiavellian is a good term for it. Listen, again, crude oil skyrocketing. And again, this is on top of all the other things that Europe is dealing with us with, whether it's, the NATO situation, word they want to start their own version of it, which is a joke, the trade situation. I think he's trying to wake up a very sleepy continent that's still living on past glory.
Absolutely. And there seems to be a refusal to acknowledge that part of the world is in a lot of trouble, that if there was a war, any kind of limited exchange at all, oil is going to stop. The Hormuz Strait's going to be blocked. That if you begin to become more reliant on an actor like Iran, when something bad happens, you're going to be in a lot, especially your militaries will be in a lot of trouble. So it's a wake-up call in that regard, but it also is an interesting, confident push from the Obama administration that everyone now we realize internationally is taking the Trump administration seriously on the issues of foreign policy, but especially with an eye to what's happening in the Middle East.
I also think that China is taking him more seriously than the American press will acknowledge. On Friday, the administration is going to lay out what they're thinking about with respect to direct investments associated with Made in China 2025. I want to share with you guys, Ian Bremmer put out a tweet quoting President Xi. In the West, you have the notion that if someone hits you on the left cheek, you turn the other cheek. In our culture, we punch back. Let me tell you, though, what's happened over there, Tammy, this is really interesting. They promote this thing like we're going to conquer the world. We're going to own the world. So in the last 12 months, the ministry over there put out 190 articles about this Made in China 2025. In the last 3 months, it dwindled to 9. And in the last 30 days, just 2. They're not bragging. They're not braggadocious. They haven't even put out retaliatory tariff measures. And Friday looms large. I think China is paying a lot more attention to this and taking it more seriously than people in America.
Well, they're recognizing that at least the propaganda has blown back on them. It's frightened not just the United States, but the Western world. It was a statement effectively that we are taking over. And it also was about their technological ambitions. And of course, it comes back down to their stealing of our intellectual property. So that's tied into that as well. So there's an understanding that, wait a minute, we can't just do what we want. Now, there's some arguments that they're going to do it anyway, and they're just not going to talk about it. That's what we have to keep an eye on.
Right. Hugo, I think the statement by the China President Xi gets back to the notion that the world's had for a long time. Take advantage of America's civilities. Whether it was terrorists taking over a plane, saying, hey, we could take over a plane with box cutters because they've been trained to be civil, to sit in their seats and wait it out. I think the world has us the wrong country. We're not that country anymore.
Yeah, President Trump has changed the approach to his relations with allies, with rivals, and with enemies around the world. And he does not try to cozy up to them, try to be their friend. He's behaving in a very aggressive and pretty tough way. I mean, pretty aggressive. Now, obviously, there are dangers associated with that, but it's, what other administrations, particularly the last one, tried to achieve by just cozying up and being pleasant obviously didn't work, and he's taking a completely different tack. I agree very much with what Tammy said there, that the Chinese have obviously changed their rhetoric. It isn't at all clear that they will not continue to head in that same direction. And this is where they differ from the Europeans. The Europeans saying we're not going to back down, but actually they probably will back down. The Chinese will say we might, we're going to play this low key, but they might actually continue to do it.
If I could just add that the president is being aggressive, but it's within the context of business and of getting the right thing done, which in the long run is beneficial and will save Europe and this country. So it's the difference between being passive and not caring and seemingly just being soft and easy versus really wanting to get the right thing done for everyone involved. And if that seems to be difficult for people, I think the end result is going to prove that, once again, the president's right in his approach.
Yeah, my mom used to call it tough love.
That's right.
All right.